what knitting has taught me about life. Today, I thought we could chat about how knitting relates to the rest of our lives. And yeah, I think this is kind of an egg or chicken situation. Did knitting teach me these things about life, or did life teach me these things about knitting? In any case, the life lessons, if we can call them that I'm about to share today or talk about today are things that apply to both my knitting and my life, and that I try to remember and live by. I'm getting cozy today. It's a really cold May day, so I'm wearing still a very cozy sweater, and I'm making some tea for our chat. Hi, I'm Lina or Lina, and I'm a knitwear designer in Helsinki, Finland. Here on my channel, I talk about my designs, share my tips, and chat about knitting in general. So grab your whip and get cozy with me. And if you like this, if this is the kind of content you'd like to see more of, do hit the subscribe button to know when I upload more videos. Lesson number 1, patience. Very few things in life that are, for me, really worth the end result or happen instantaneously. They take time. Knitting is a good example of that. It is a slow process from cast on to bind off, whether it's hat like this one that's relatively quick to knit, or a sweater. It does take time, and you might as well enjoy the journey, right? So that applies to a lot of things in life. If I want to grow herbs in my garden, I need to first of all wait for the season where I can plant the seeds and for the seeds to grow, and then wait for them to be ready for harvest. So yes, patience is a thing that knitting has taught me about life, and that it reminds me about that every single time I pick up my needles and work on some stitches like now. And remembering that something being slow is a good thing. It's a good thing knitting is slow. It makes us appreciate the materials more, the end result more, and tells us or shows us that we can actually enjoy the journey. And since things take time, we should enjoy the journey. And also remembering that any progress is progress. So if I just do a couple of stitches, one row, that's still progress towards my goal. Knitting reminds me to appreciate, notice all of the small steps I take towards getting to whatever it was that I desired or thought I needed. The second lesson is the mistakes are okay. I am somewhat known for not fixing my mistakes in knitting, but if I have a couple of extra stitches or I'm missing a few stitches, I'm just simply going to decrease them on the next row, or I'm going to just forego a couple of other increases if there are some coming up. And I really don't even spend that much time trying to figure out where I went wrong. I have a whole lace cardigan that I worked on maybe 7 years ago, and I messed up an entire lace repeat, but I just left it as it is. It works, I can wear it, and no one knows. Even if it looks a bit odd, no one knows it's not supposed to look odd, right? So I'm just not gonna sweat it. So whenever you notice a mistake, whether in knitting or in life, you can have a moment to think about if this is something that is worth fixing, or if it really has that much value that you need to be stressed out about it and do something about it, or not. You can leave it as it is and move on, or go back and fix it, of course, if you can. Learn from it. Like I said, mistakes can also teach us a lot of things, and sometimes in knitting and in life, again, we only notice the mistakes after the fact. Like after we've already worked 10 centimeters more, we notice that there was something odd when it's really difficult to go and fix them. And sometimes we learn the lesson also afterwards. Like, why did my color work not look beautiful? Well, I held my floats too tight. That's something you might only notice after you've blocked your hat or a pair of socks. And then you learn that lesson for your next color work project. That doesn't mean that whatever you did is necessarily bad or a waste of time. And yes, I know mistakes can be so annoying, really annoying. I've been there. Let's move past the angst that we have towards knitting mistakes and having to frog something. Mistakes are okay. They happen. They're part of life. Getting more cozy on the floor. Yeah, so that leads me on to my next life lesson that knitting has taught me about life, and that is don't aim for perfect. When we're knitting, we are doing something with our hands, and that is by default different than machine made, and handmade should not or doesn't need to aim to look like it was machine made. There's value in things being handmade, and it's okay if they look that way. If you can tell just by looking at something that it's handmade and not mass-produced, I think that's an extremely wonderful thing in today's world, especially. And just having that expectation of things looking perfect is just completely necessary and unreasonable. It's too much to ask of yourself, or for myself. That would sort of ruin the whole enjoyment of the process if I'm focused on things being perfect, where I really want to aim more for just enjoying the whole process. So the sort of adjectives that or the characteristics that I value highly are unique, soulful, heartfelt, and that's something you find in handmade things and not machine or mass-produced. And to me, those are more meaningful. Things that are heartfelt, heartful, unique are more valuable than things that are perfect. So why should I have that standard of perfection for my knitting? Just in general, I find, I need to count how many rows I've worked. Yeah, just in general, I find that we demand so much of ourselves in pretty much everything we do every day, that I really try to be kinder towards myself. It's okay to strive for your best and try to be your best, but demanding perfection is just, it's exhausting. And for me, foremost, knitting is right now a way to relax, so I really try not to add that standard of perfection to it. I love my knitted items, and I love wearing them and using them, but I also really love knitting itself, and I believe that's what most of us are here for, the enjoyment of knitting. So when I'm knitting, I'm trying to focus on just the joy of it instead of demanding that perfect finished object, because I am getting enjoyment out of it anyway. So it doesn't really matter if the end result is the best. Take this sweater, for example. When I realized that I ran out of the yellow mohair, so that I wouldn't have enough for both sleeves, for a little while I was really devastated. It's like, it's not going to be perfect. It's for the book and it has to be perfect. And then I went back to what was the idea of the sweater. Well, to use up your mohair scraps. Okay, so sometimes you underestimate how much yarn you need, or you look at your mohair skein and think that it's gonna last, or it wasn't a full skein that was the problem, it was leftovers. So I thought it would be enough, but it wasn't. I could have done one sleeve or a little bit of one sleeve, but I decided to just go ahead and use something completely different for the sleeve. So this stripe here changes color, and this color doesn't exist on the body, although the other stripes match. And I was, for a little while, like I said, I was really devastated and was like, do I have to frog the whole stripe and take another color for that one? Then I realized that it doesn't have to be perfect. The idea for the sweater wasn't to have the perfect striping, it was to use your mohair skeins, and it sort of blend into the unique characteristics of the whole sweater. And also the crystal that inspired it is the angel aura quartz, which is about being playful, whimsical, you know, really upbeat and joyful. So it just really, I felt that if I frogged the sweater, if I tried to make the sweater be too perfect because of something I perceived as imperfection, was the wrong thing to do. So I ended up just going with the flow. I haven't heard anyone complain about this, and I actually quite like it because it, again, makes it more unique, gives it that happy-go-lucky vibe that I find I want it for the sweater, and that the crystal that inspired the sweater has. So if I had aimed for perfection, the end result wouldn't be what I'm now very happily wearing. So I guess the fourth point, or the fourth life lesson, would then be something that I've actually said many times already, I believe, and that is that it's not about the end result, it's about the journey. So focus on the journey more than where you're going or what you're making, if we're talking about knitting specifically. So what I find is that we're so focused, or I am, whenever I say we, I mostly just mean me, but it's just feels nicer to include other people in it as well. I'd love to hear what your life lessons have been, what realizations knitting has given you about life, or life about knitting, you know, chicken or egg. Let me know in the comments. I would love to realize, have more insights, learn more, and just read about different perspectives on things. But yes, so in life, it's very easy to be just focused on where we're going. I want a better job. I want a nicer house. I want new shoes. I want to go on that trip. I want to have that and that and that sweater finished. Random examples. I don't necessarily want those things. The trips, though, yeah, I do want to travel a lot. Point is that we're so focused on the things that we want and feel like we need that we sort of skip past most of our lives, essentially, if we're just focused on getting to that point and just not paying attention to the path that leads us there. So if I was with this hat just focused on getting this hat finished, wearing it, writing up the pattern, I would waste hours of my days if I was just focused on that. But if I instead okay, now I need to frog. I wasn't focused on what I was doing. I'm gonna finish my point and then unravel the few stitches that I need to go back. And I lost my train of thought. But I try my best to be in the moment. So yes, I want the hat finished and I want to write up the pattern and share it with all of you. But I also really, because I enjoy knitting, and that's what I'm here for. That's why I started doing this, is I love knitting. I'm going to enjoy the stitches. I'm going to focus on enjoying the stitches and the creative process that it takes to get to that finished hat. The same in life. If I have that trip planned, which I have a lot of them planned, I'm gonna enjoy the planning stages and the waiting of the beginning of that trip. If we're just too focused on the end goal, we quite easily miss a lot of lovely moments and experiences. And I can see and experience a lot during the journey as well, in addition to just wherever destination I'm going to. I think that mistake happened at a really good time because it brings me to my next point or next life lesson, which is that slowing down is important. I was trying to do too much. I was talking to the camera and I was knitting and working on stockinette, garter, whatever was fine. But if I need to focus on both things, that I need to be able to articulate my point clearly to you, not doing a great job on that, I know, and working on that lace pattern that I needed to start on that row, not a good end result, especially for a tired brain. So yes, slowing down is important. We can't always be productive. We can't always be alert and on the go. Our brains and bodies both need moments where nothing happens. So for me, I find that working on simple stitches and letting that sort of familiar rhythm of the needles, working on knit stitch after knit stitch, is something that allows my mind to rest. And that sort of sitting down, being quiet, slowing down, that's something that might be just the thing that you need. So if you feel like you're working on that same garter stitch blanket and really not going nowhere, because we all know blankets take forever in the knit, that's perfectly fine. You don't ever need to finish it. Just sitting down and knitting it can be beneficial in other ways. You don't have to be productive. Your knitting doesn't have to be productive all the time either. It's okay to just be and do things for the enjoyment of doing things. Not everything we do needs to be about doing something useful, being productive. It's perfectly okay and it's necessary to just do something for peace and rest. The sixth life lesson is that you can start again and again and again and again, as many times as you need to. If you need to rip back and, cast on again, that's perfectly fine. You are allowed to do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Changing your mind about the pattern or the yarn, or just realizing that you've actually made too many mistakes and you just don't like it, doesn't bring you joy anymore, you don't like it anymore, you can rip it back, you can frog it, and you're allowed to not see that as a failure. I talked about this actually a little bit when I shared my knitting journey, and when I was digging through this basket, I saw this skein, and this used to be a whole knitted tunic. I think I used about 8 or 9 TK weight skeins. It took me hours to knit this. It had cables and some other stitch patterns on it, and it was gorgeous. The choice of filming, I was holding the skein and talked for minutes afterwards, and then had stopped recording. So I ripped the whole tunic back because I just didn't enjoy wearing it. It wasn't for me. I'm repurposing the yarn for something else. I've had it for years, but still it's going to be something else because I still really love the color. All right, so then I had a 7th life lesson. Just gonna check that it's recording. We're still going strong. 7th life lesson, which was to embrace creativity. What I mean by that is I believe that we are all creative in our own ways. Some are just more attuned to it than others. Since you're watching this, I'm assuming you're knitting or at least interested in knitting. So I feel that you are already being creative. You are embracing your creativity, and you can go further with that. Or sometimes we get into a knitting slump, so to speak. And remember that we don't have to fit into a certain mold, even if it's a mold that we've created for ourselves. We are allowed to change, so we can try new colors, try new techniques, knit different kind of sweaters. If you've always knit long sweaters like this one, why not try a cropped one and see how that feels for you? If you've used strong colors, maybe experiment with muted tones. If you feel like you're in a rut, if you're feeling very happy and energized by what you're making, yes, I think you're doing what is right for you. These I used in my a little book of moon inspired shawls, and these in my latest book, Soothing Stitches, for different designs in them. And now that I see them together, I think these could make something really nice, don't you think? So yes, sometimes just looking through your stash, pairing different yarn combinations, things like that could spark your creativity. I think we all benefit, and this is something that I do regularly with my knitting and outside my knitting, is to try something new. And the point is not to find a new hobby or make something perfect. No, you don't even, the point is that you tried something new, even if the end result, like most often, is that this wasn't for me. The point is you tried something new, and it sort of rearranges something in your brain a little, something in your soul a little. Sort of 7+1 life lesson is that sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay too. Not everything in life is about sunshine and rainbows, so accepting that there are things that don't work out like you wanted to, don't have the result or even the enjoyment of this journey as you wished for. And that's just part of life, and that's something that needs to be accepted. And yeah, there's still something to be gained from that. At least there are often lessons that we can learn, skills that we can learn through them, and they just help make the good things feel even better, don't they? Right. I think I waffled on long enough about these. So yes, 7+ life lessons. Let me know in the comments which ones you agree with, which ones you disagree with. If there's something that you have learned that I didn't vocalize here, do share that. I love to gain new insights and see things from different perspectives. So let's have a conversation down below in the comments. And if you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, please, because it helps other knitters find these videos, and it helps me know that you enjoyed it. And that's the easiest way to support my channel, really. I will see you soon again. Thank you so much for watching.